Hi, welcome to the Gear Garage. My name is Zach, and this is my little show about whitewater things. And in today's episode, I want to talk about some advice if you got a permit on the Middle Fork of the Salmon and kind of what you'll do to help plan your trip and get ready for it. If you don't know, I have an outfitting business on the Middle Fork. I've been a guide there for a long time, so I have some knowledge of it. And for that reason, I get a lot of calls and emails, and also because people watch this show and they call me and email me asking for advice on how to do their trip. And unfortunately, I'm about to be in the field for 6 weeks. I can't possibly answer every call and email I get, but there is a trend. There are questions I'm commonly asked, so I'm doing my best to answer those questions. And I have some just general comments about running the Middle Fork that I want to share. So bear with me. I'm going to kind of go through this stuff kind of slowly, but hopefully the answers to your questions are here. If not, those of you that are experienced and you're watching this, because a lot of you can probably watch this and judge my things and say, oh, he's wrong about this or that, which is great. I mean, that's fine with me. Leave those comments in the comment section below because people can learn from that stuff. And so I probably am wrong about things. I probably am misleading about some stuff. And so the comment section is where the gold is going to be. And if you have further questions, ask the questions down in the comment section. I'll try to answer them. But there's a lot of other super smart, awesome boaters who can come in and answer those questions probably better than I can. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button. Please take a second. It costs you nothing. It probably won't affect your life. But it affects me. It makes me feel super cool and valued and special. And please subscribe. And if you have a second, hit the like button too. That'd be super cool. Then other people will see this. The more people that like this, the more people that see this. But more than that, subscribers, because I want to feel special. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to start with some commonly asked questions that I get. And the most common one is, what is the flow going to be on blah, blah, blah date? And I, unfortunately, cannot predict the future. I do not know what flows will be when. And honestly, the snowpack is going to change a lot between now and May. It's not going to just be go in a straight line. Snowpacks don't do that. And so for me, I only check the snowpack now to make conversation with friends. Just to think, oh yeah, I see the snowpack is this. But it doesn't really affect my life at all, even though I run trips there all summer. Because I know it's going to look a lot different in May. So I don't actually take a good look at it and make any kind of decisions until early mid-May. And that's not even a full decision. That's just I kind of see what the trend is going to be. I don't think about that at all right now. Again, other than just to make conversation with friends when I see them somewhere. So, I don't know what the flow is going to be, but here's some guidelines. In May and June, it could be super low all the way to crazy, scary high. So, completely unpredictable. What I can tell you about May is it's going to be cold, and in June, it could be cold too. July is a sweet spot. July is when the weather's pretty good, and the flows are in that moderate range that most class 3 plus easy 4 boaters can handle. It's a nice sweet spot for flows, not super hard generally, but it can also be really low if it's a bad snowpack year. Sometime around the third week in July is when we'll start deadheading. We'll start launching, our guests will fly into Indian. So we'll start being more careful how we run the river, third, fourth week in July, just depending on the snowpack. But again, that can happen in early July and that can happen in mid-August. Totally depends on the snowpack. Something I cannot predict ever, and something I unfortunately can't tell you. I also get questions about the road. When's the road going to open? Same thing. I think the Forest Service has a goal to open at Memorial Day weekend, and I think that's generally when it kind of gets open. But if it's a big snowpack year, it may not be open by then. And if it's a low snowpack year, it might be open earlier. And so it's just really hard to say when the road will open. I don't keep tabs on it because I don't do the Middle Fork until the second week in June typically. So it's not something I pay attention to. And so unfortunately, I can't answer that question very well. A lot of times people too ask me about where do I rent gear? Where do I get gear from? And if you need to rent gear, there's a number of places that do it throughout Idaho. I don't really rent gear personally, so I can't tell you which one's better than which. But if you just Google, I just did it, Middle Fork of the Salmon Raft Rentals, you'll find a bunch of names I've heard of, and I'm sure they're great. But unfortunately, I don't know much about the gear rental companies. And I also get asked, are the people that can pack food, that can do shuttles, do all those things? I know the people that do rentals do shuttles a lot of the time. I don't know which ones do which. And I think some pack food, but not like they do in the Grand Canyon, where they just show up and all your stuff is perfect and you can just go. I think it's not quite there yet. But I know some people are packing food. I don't know who. I bet the best place to find that answer would be Google. I also get asked the question, do I have the ability? Let's say like I've run the Rogue 5 times and I've done this other river twice. Can I do the Middle Fork? And honestly, I can't answer that question. And the reason is I've told people before, if you go to this river, you might die. And they have the time of their lives and do perfect. And I'm totally wrong. And I've told people, oh, you'll be fine. And they've had utter disasters. So I'm usually wrong when I tell somebody if they're able to run a river. And it's even harder if I don't know you. So if I've never met you and you just give me some information, I unfortunately cannot give you a professional opinion about whether or not you can run the river. And I think a good rule of thumb is if you're asking that question, maybe not. Or maybe you can, but it's marginal. So I think that's a tough question for me to answer. I'm going to say the Middle Fork could require easily Class 4 skills at a minimum. High water requires the Class 4 skills. Low water requires Class 4 skills. And the Middle Fork's unpredictable. Sorry, I had to re-say that. So at any time there could be a new rapid forming in the middle, like halfway down, like a flash flood could happen. There's a new Class 4 rapid. And so it's a river, in my opinion, that requires Class 4 skills. I also get asked, what type of boat should I bring? And I think my general answer is bring the boat you're most comfortable in. The boat you boat the most, the boat you like the most. And figure it out. And if it's a small boat, don't bring very much stuff. If it's a big boat, you can bring lots of stuff. But I wouldn't recommend bringing a 13-foot boat and bringing everything. If you're going to bring a small boat, go backpacker style. In my opinion, the 18-foot boat is the best boat for the Middle Fork at all flows. But mainly because that's the boat I rode the most. And it's the boat you can carry the most stuff in. Because when you have a big boat with a weight, if it's a 13-foot boat with the same weight, it's going to be like that. And so a bigger boat is going to sit higher in the water and float over shallow rocks. Hopefully that makes sense. Why I like 18s. And now, again, there's more chutes and things you got to be more technical about for sure. Yeah, it's easier to fit a 13-foot boat through narrow chutes. But I think at low water, the general issue is the shallow water more than it's like the narrow chute. So I'm going to urge you to take a big boat. A high water, big boat. So I'm going to say a 16-foot boat for a private boater is pretty sweet. If you have an 18, I think you'll like it even more. I also ask, how can I don't have those skills. How do I prepare? And we offer training and online courses and rowing courses. And I think all of our courses between now and the summer are full, unfortunately. But I want to be clear that taking a course, a 2-day, 5-day course, isn't enough training to add to a little bit of experience during the Middle Fork. And so if you're not experienced now and you're not a good boater now, getting from here to there by the summer, a course isn't enough. And so I'd love to sell you one. I'd love to sell you one of our courses. It's going to help, but it's not quite enough. You need to go out and practice. And so if you're lacking in experience and practice, I would highly recommend you go boating. And I know a lot of people don't own boats. They're planning to rent them for the Middle Fork. If you don't own a boat, I think it's really hard to do the Middle Fork because you need to be a boater. You need to be practiced. And if you don't have that experience, you need to spend your spring boating a lot. Not just a couple of days here and there, a couple of weekends, a lot. So my general take is if you don't have the skills right now to run the Middle Fork, you might want to rethink doing it. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of experience that would love to run the Middle Fork. They didn't get a permit this year. They get skunked every year. You can release your permit so that they can do a trip. And so I would humbly consider saying, hey, maybe I'm not ready for it. I can't get ready between now and the season. Maybe I should turn my permit in and let somebody else who really wants to do it and has the skills do the trip. And so I think I would say things you could do. Again, take one of our classes. We have an online course, of course. Take a swiftwater rescue class, you and your friends, so there's a common understanding about safety and ropes and all those things. But you got to just boat. I also get asked a lot about high water and low water. What's it like at high water? What's it like at low water? And I've written an entire blog about high water, pointing out some important safety things and some particularly important spots. I'm going to link down below in the show notes to that blog. I would check that out. And same thing for low water. I've written an entire blog about low water, talking about some of the challenges, things you can do to prepare, and some of the important points. So If you want to read those blogs, they'll tell you about high water and low water, which present different, unique challenges. Let's go on to some comments. These are just general comments I want to share about running the Middle Fork in general with anybody who's new to running it. And the first one is, you really do need to have experience. I can't reiterate that enough. If you aren't, I just mentioned this, but I want to mention it again in the comment section. If you aren't a good boater and a practice boater and experienced boater, and you don't have training in first aid and safety, and being the kind of training you would need to be in the wilderness for 6 days, you may want to rethink this. People get in trouble on the Middle Fork a lot, and I know this because I see them. I'm out there. I see people who it takes them 4 or 5 days to get just down to Indian Creek from Boundary Creek, and they have to fly all their stuff out because they can't keep going based on the permit. They don't have camps. And so I see a lot of disasters. There's a lot of great Middle Fork trips, but I also see a lot of people who are pulling into camp at dark every night, that are just stuck on rocks the whole time, that are really struggling. And so it's important, if you aren't ready for this trip, that you maybe rethink doing it. And if it's marginal for you and you want to go have an adventure with your friends, awesome. And I love adventures. If you're going to go like huddle around the campfire dark in the cold and get up and push off rocks all day, if you want an adventure, a true like hardy, let's have an adventure, yeah, you can have that pretty easily if you're not experienced. But if you think, if you're not experienced and you want that trip where you get to camp and you go for hikes and you watch birds and you smell the flowers and you go to hot springs and enjoy all the Middle Fork has to offer, you're not going to get that if you're not experienced, possibly. Again, I don't give advice on who's ready to do it or not, but I really want to make that point as clear as I can. And if you're not ready for this trip, again, you're holding a spot somebody else could have, somebody else could take on a very special trip that not that many people get to do. And so I just really encourage you to consider just turning in your permit and going in a future date. And I know it's hard to do, but know that there are people who really want to do this trip that have put the time in and have the experience and the skills to do this responsibly. And just want to throw that out there. Next, I want to talk about put-in and takeout. And on all rivers, most rivers, put-ins and takeouts can create a lot of tension between all boaters, private versus commercial, nice people versus not nice people. And on the Middle Fork, there's no different. At Boundary Creek, there's one boat ramp, and we're all sharing it. And if one group just hogs the ramp and puts their stuff there, and everybody has to pile up waiting for them, that creates a lot of problems for everybody. And so I would just ask at Boundary Creek, say hi to people, smile, laugh, ask how you can help, take turns using the ramp, be considerate of others. Don't just shove all your stuff in the ramp and then just chill. That ramp, boats need to keep just going down that ramp all evening long. So it just will help everybody if we're all considerate. And I'm not saying this is that private boaters are nicer than commercial boaters or vice versa. What I see in my experience is that there's nice, considerate people, and then there's the opposite. And we see a lot of people, private and commercial, who are on each side. So, and the same thing with takeout. Takeout, there's more room at takeout, but for some reason there's more conflict there because some people kind of come in and block everybody. And so take a lane and try to just use that lane so everybody can have a lane, everybody can finish and keep going. And know that commercial companies are all kind of on this like system where we have to go back out every week. And so we generally all get to take out like 10:30, 11, 12, somewhere in there in that window. And the ramp is going to be crowded. So I know as a private boater, you may want to get there then. Awesome, cool. But if you spend your afternoon enjoying the last few miles of the Middle Fork and pulling the takeout around 2, 2:30, 3, it'll be empty. So, and you'll be stress-free, you'll be relaxed, you can leave your stuff everywhere. And so I'm not telling you when to get to the takeout. I'm just saying you might want to consider enjoying the river longer and then getting there a little bit later. It'll make the experience better. And finally, the last thing I want to share about is sweep boats. These are these really cool boats that only run down the Middle Fork. There's a few other rivers, but mainly the Middle Fork. They're like 20 plus feet long. They have these things called sweeps in the bow and the stern. So a sweep is like a 8-foot oar. I think they're like 6-foot oar in the front and the back. They're massive. And these boats go really fast. They go faster than a normal raft. And they can't really stop. They're really hard to eddy out. And they're mainly for commercial boaters. Mainly commercial boaters are running these. So if you see one, understand that they really can't slow down or stop. And just ask, I would ask, as somebody who does these sometimes, that you kind of look back for them once in a while. And if you see one, just eddy out and let it pass. Because if it can't really, if it gets near you, it can't really always stop and it will hit you, which is bad for you and for the sweet boat. And so these are unique, and just consider them having some sort of right of way. And I know it's not an official policy, but these boats are unique. The way, like, if I'm mountain biking, I'm looking out for horses, right? If you're in a regular raft, I would just respectfully ask that you look out for sweet boats. So that's it. That's a lot of information. Hopefully it didn't sound like us pontificating. I genuinely want to share the knowledge that I have the best I can with you, and share some thoughts that I have about running the Middle Fork. Congratulations on your permits. It's a spectacular trip. You know, of course, it's a trip that changed my life. It took me from being a guide before that to discovering a place that made me decide to spend my life as a person who does this as a job and shares that place with others. It definitely changed my life. I know it's changed a lot of lives, and probably many that have watched. Again, if you have questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you're a seasoned expert and you want to add more comments, things I missed, other things, I'm sure I always miss things. I forget to say things. I don't know things. So those of you that are seasoned experts, leave those comments down in the comment section below. It really helps others. I appreciate it. And like and subscribe, of course. And yeah, that's it for this episode. See you in the next one. Thanks.